It's time for Plank of the Week. I'm Mike Graham, and this, of course, is talkTV. And I'm very happy to say that we are joined for the second time by Claire Fox, fresh from the House of Lords, to tell us who she thinks of this week's planks. And Will Geddes, of course, a veteran of this very show. And I think, Claire, you should kick us off because, as ever, we're going to run through them at a high speed and we'll bring you all the planks that you need. Claire, who's your first one?
My top one is NISH KUMAR.
Yes, very worthy.
He said, balancing out the fact that I can't stand Javid or Sunak with the fact that I love to see a what is it? God, rich white man brought down by Asians.
Yeah.
He started a trend that's happened all week, which is to effectively be racist about the fact that there's a lot of non-white candidates standing for the Tory party leadership. It's just incredible.
It's almost as though people on the left side of politics can't understand why anybody who is not white is in the Tory party.
But they're so obsessed with the kind of racialised view of the world that they also can't see anyone without their skin colour. Then they have to reference it, and then they end up making racist comments.
Well, if anybody else had said something like that who was white, they'd be, you know, in jail by now, wouldn't they?
Absolutely.
Well, it's such a racist thing.
But if you turn it...
Hold my beer, Mike. Maybe coming up with something.
But it's also, if you think about it, if it was rich white, if it was rich Asian man brought down by whites, if you see what I mean, we'd all be up in arms.
Of course we would.
The point is, it's just the vicious inability to understand that because people have got a particular skin colour, they haven't all got the same politics. Now, when I was growing up, a long time ago, I think that if you thought that because of somebody's skin colour they all had a particular attitude, that was what we used to call racism.
Yeah.
You know, you'd think, all black people think the same.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
What they're saying is, get in line, you're not doing as you should be doing, you're one of us.
Yeah.
And if you're on you've got a different political viewpoint, we're going to shame you, humiliate you, and so on and so forth. And there's a good dose of anti-whiteness in there as well.
There totally is.
Yeah.
Also, NISH KUMAR is one of those people who, because he's not very funny as a comedian, doesn't really have the job that he used to have. Even the BBC couldn't stand him, and they got rid of his show. He's now doing it somewhere else where nobody watches it. And he's just not a very amusing bloke. And he needs to stop pretending to be a comedian.
The thing is, I don't mind comedians whose politics are right on and, you know, I disagree with if they make me laugh.
Yeah.
NISH KUMAR, it's been a while, as they say.
It really has.
He did used to have a bit of an edge, and there were occasions...
Well, yeah, but I mean, the only time I ever...
He's become so sanctimonious and self-aggrandising, self-regarding, that you can't take him
And all they
seriously
do,
anymore.
these guys, is write gags about Donald Trump and Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean,
Easy,
now that Boris Johnson...
low-hanging fruit.
It really is.
Easy
I mean,
prospects.
Stuart Lee, you know, the comedian...
I used to really love him.
Used to be really funny. Wrote a piece in The Guardian, actually mentioned me, asked whether concrete Mike Graham was in charge of the country now. And I'm thinking,
why not?
I mean, what's wrong with you? And he wrote this sort of diatribe, which was just so anti-Tory and anti-Boris, it just wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
What was great about
Ramblings
Stuart Lee...
of a maniac.
Stuart Lee in his day...
Yeah.
Had that kind of edge where you couldn't quite anticipate where he was going. He obviously did these long, slow monologues, but he was so clever that you could kind of find yourself laughing at things you weren't expecting to, and he was brilliant. I remember when Princess Diana died, which was obviously tragic, but kind of describing the world we were living in, was the first time that we'd seen all that mass mourning and the flowers and so on. Stuart Lee was brilliant. And, by the way, he was completely pro-free speech. I remember
and
he
you
was
need people like that. And as you say, I
but
don't
I want
care...
the degeneration, in a way.
I don't care
horrible.
what their politics are, as long as they're funny.
He actually, though, has now abandoned free speech. And that's what happens to a lot of them. You know, they basically feel... They were opposed to free speech when... I remember when Christian Concern were, you know, picketing shows that he was involved in, for example, and he talked to me and said, we've got to have a fight for free speech. Unless it's hate speech is now what he'd say. And I'd be one of the people that he'd be trying to shut up.
Yeah, amazing. Anyway,
right.
Hold your beer, you said.
Hold my beer. So, talking about people who have got a controversial and probably misplaced position on things, my favourite is that well-known barrister, the kimono-wearing, fox-killing with a cricket bat, barrister JOLYON MORDAUNT. Is that the way you pronounce it?
I pronounce his name Moron, actually.
Moron, fine, that'll do.
Moron, because I feel it fits better.
Yeah, that works for me.
It works for me as well. And he has consistently proven himself to be a plank.
Yeah,
He's been on this show quite a lot.
I think we should change his name to Claymore because I think he does an awesome job of just exploding everything in front of him. So the particular point I've got, which is very similar to yours, was the tweet, which he has now reposted with a very long thread justifying it, was the tweet he put out saying, is the Conservatives ready, Rishi, for a brown candidate?
Yes.
And I just thought, that is so offensive.
It really is.
I mean, I'm the least woke person next to you, Mike, that you probably know. And I have to say, it kind of just made me wince reading it. And I thought, there's no justification.
It's another example of that left-wing racism, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And you go through the thread of all his various tweets, and there's nothing that I could look at that wouldn't be playing to his crowd, which I kind of get it to a certain extent. But there's nothing there of any value or content.
But there's no truth to it either.
No.
And again, they can't accept the fact that there are people who have got brown skin who happen to be quite powerful and
incredibly powerful. I mean, I could rattle off a few names
and
very
successful
easily. Exactly.
In this world in which we all live. And you go, well, what's wrong with you?
Why attribute, skin colour?
And his explanation
to the whole
for
thing.
how he wasn't going to take any lessons in, whatever it was, tolerance from all these right-wing nutters that were attacking him.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, sorry, mate, you're the nutter. You're the guy who's gone off the scale.
But I think that, on a serious note, people have really importantly made the point that I'm no supporter of the Conservative Party, but they've effortlessly managed to have quite a diverse range of candidates,
very diverse,
right? So not just in terms of race, but there's a lot of women and so on and so forth. So, and all kind of ages, backgrounds and so
expertise,
on. And the main thing was they didn't do it through box ticking.
Yeah.
And other parties, without mentioning them, but the opposition parties who box tick their way through the identity politics regime actually haven't got as much diversity. So the irony of all of this is there's a kind of jealousy.
Yeah, but also there's
a kind of bitterness.
On the Conservative candidates, there are a lot of notable names that you could immediately spring to it. I mean, I don't follow politics as much as you guys do, and because it's all a completely opaque environment as far as I'm concerned. But you can rattle off quite a few names from the Conservative candidates. Can you do that with Labour Party, other than Jess Phillips, Diane Abbott and Keir Starmer? I can't think of many others of any notable, notoriety or notability.
Even just
probably.
Household names,
Yeah,
that's
exactly. You'd pick
that's the thing about politics, though, because we are all kind of political nerds to some extent. Most of the people, if you go out into a high street and say, do you even know who this picture is? Yeah. And you show them a picture of Keir Starmer, a lot of them wouldn't even know. Seriously. I mean, I don't know who he is.
Well, that's also why Boris Johnson captured the imagination to a certain extent, which was that people knew him almost beyond his politics. There's some kind of a personality.
Yeah, but that was his downfall as well, I think.
But I think perhaps so. Which brings me to Boris Johnson, actually, because he's going to be my plank of the week. Because at the end of the day, despite all of the other people who have done so many different ridiculously stupid things, I mean, here's a guy who was elected with a massive majority of 80 seats. Yeah. An incredible mandate to get Brexit done, which he then did. And he's just thrown it all away. And you kind of, I mean, every now and again I wake up, sometimes in the afternoon if I'm having a nap, sometimes in the morning, and I just go, why did he do that? What did he do? Because even just a month ago, it looked like he was Teflon Boris. Nothing stuck to him. He got away with everything. And then suddenly the Pincher effect sort of got to him because of the madness of the way that Downing Street kept denying things which turned out to be true. And you go, well...
Who's head of communications over
there?
Well,
it's Gittu Harry. It's Gittu Harry.
Yeah, just doing a terrible job.
I think he actually is plank of the year, Boris. Yeah. Plank of the last few years. Yeah. Because it wasn't even... I mean, he did make a mess of the Chris Pincher thing, right? And why the hell they didn't just admit it?
But it would have been so easy not to.
But, they just got themselves embroiled. But the main thing he's done, which is the point why you're right, is he had the most magnificent opportunity. Yeah. And he squandered it, Boris. And it's not just because he got forced to leave over the Pincher thing and all the rest of it. It was I think he took that mandate as a kind of entitlement to behave badly. And I mean, he kind of just thought, oh, nothing will touch me. And let's be honest, he has not... He got us technically out of the European Union, but with no imagination has he really made that come alive for people in this country.
But to be fair, I think he's had a very rough deal. I mean, he's had the Ukraine war to deal with, he's had COVID to deal with.
Yeah, but people say that about COVID, right?
Now, probably more than most PMs have had in the last
Probably true, but people always say, and we were talking about this earlier, that, oh, well, he didn't have much opportunity to make much policy. Well, he managed to make the policy on COP26. He managed to organise an entire, international conference on climate change. He managed to appoint loads of people to loads of jobs. One of the people that resigned last week was doing a job that I'd never heard of. Apparently, Minister for Climate Adaptation.
Yeah.
I'm going, sorry?
There's also lots of laws that were designed that he came up with.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had the Queen's speech saying, here's 38 pieces of legislation.
Yeah.
And I can tell you a good over half of them are draconian or irrelevant or not necessary. Yeah. So that was under his call, right? I mean, you can't let him... I mean, he managed to come up with that despite COVID.
Yeah.
38 pieces, a massive legislative programme. He didn't need to do that. He could have said, we'll have top 10 pieces of legislation that will help us deliver the Brexit promise, but he didn't do it.
But also, people were willing to forgive him for all of the restrictions, all of the COVID stuff.
If he'd have...
if he'd simply now taken the ball and run with it, but he just didn't do anything.
But the difficulty...
But he also had Partygate. I mean, he had Partygate, which was going to hang around him like a bad smell, and constantly. I mean, even when Ukraine kicked off, Partygate was just... And I know certain colleagues of yours here at talkTV are very adamant that he needed to take accountability for it. But I think the rest of us were incredibly bored of the whole subject matter.
No, I think that's true. And that's
we need to move on,
But I think that's why he could have got away with that.
He could have done.
What I'm saying is he didn't do enough. He hadn't got a substantial enough move forward. And I therefore can't forgive him. That's why he's a plank, because he was squandered. But
because he's done it to himself.
He's done it to himself. But it's also true that I have every sympathy with all of those voters who just feel that they really wanted to be the ones who decided whether he went or not.
Yeah.
And, you can say he made a mess of everything, which he did, but there was something about the establishment the same establishment who were determined not to let Brexit happen, were the ones who, as soon as he got elected with that massive majority, just said, there's no way we're letting him get away with this. I mean, it's like there's almost... I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory, but it was they just despised the voters asserting themselves on the stage. They couldn't stand that he had an 80-seat majority. And so from day one, before any Partygate, before any COVID, they were determined to smash up this new large
But I think also
majority.
he was...
They were, but I mean, he helped them out.
And then what happened was he fed into it. That's why he's a plank.
That's why he's a plank, because there is that
I think as a plank also, he never evolved from the clown sort of status and persona that he started with, the whole messed up hair and all a bit jokey and a bit jovial. And the problem is he should have evolved, I think, as a head of state for us to be able to
Which he tried to do in Ukraine. But, I mean, once you can only be...
To a degree.
...that way when you're abroad... that's when you've got a problem, because, we all know that as soon as he got home again, there was another swathe of problems, and they were mostly all self-inflicted. Yeah. And that's why he's a plank.
Fair enough.
Anyway,
fair enough.
So your second one then, Claire?
Oh, I can't remember. Right, my second one is, talking of blanks, is actually Penny Mordaunt. Now, I've tried to keep out of the leadership elections for the Conservative Party. It's not my party.
Right.
But what really annoyed me here was I was really pleased when I saw that Penny Mordaunt had put out a thread clarifying that all the people who were saying that she'd bought into trans ideology were wrong, because she wanted to clarify that she really did believe in... she knew what a woman was, she believed in biological sex, all this. She does this long thread. I thought, great, somebody's changed their position. But she then said... And those people who were saying that I was responsible somehow for the maternity bill that had pregnant people in it and refused to have the word woman or mother in it, that's not true. That was somebody else, not me. Now, I happen to have been there during this period because it was in the House of Lords that a group of us discovered that we had a maternity bill that we were meant to nod through without any reference to women or mothers. And we had to then have a massive fight. And the big fight constantly was... And people kept saying, oh, the problem is Penny Mordaunt doesn't want this, or Penny Mordaunt is in the way. And eventually we compromised with the word mother. Yeah. Expected mothers was allowed. OK. Woman wasn't. And as soon as it happened, Penny Mordaunt stood up in the House of Commons and said, I just want to clarify that trans women are women, trans men are men. Yeah. I think this is in Hansard.
And that came back to haunt her. And it came back to haunt her.
And she's now deleted that tweet. But in other words, I'm happy that people can say, look, I've thought about this. There's been a bit of a debate on the issue. I've changed my mind. Yeah. But don't take us for fools, right? Yeah. This was in Hansard.
Also, she hasn't actually changed her mind. She's come up with this rather convoluted explanation.
It is convoluted. It's just that I was being generous.
Yes.
I stopped being generous when I knew she was telling about Porky. So
the other reason she should be on the planks list is her ridiculous sort of video that she put out.
Oh, that was...
which was...
Oh, I didn't see this.
Coming hot on the heels of Rishi Sunak's really, really awful, cringy video.
Oh, that was good, yes. I don't know any working class people.
You know. Well, not that one, but I mean, just mad. But she put Oscar Pistorius in the video.
Brilliant.
As if that was a reason to endorse her.
Good sell point.
I mean... maybe she'd forgotten the fact that he was actually doing time for murdering his girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Domestic violence, the thing which
that's
you're
also,
another not great for women moment. On the penny board.
Could have had a little cameo from Gary Glitter and Jimmy Savile in there.
Well, exactly right. I mean, she should go for the whole shebang. But
she's been very popular in the country, and I think people can't like the idea. She's a Portsmouth girl, as they were, the whole
in the Navy
story, all that palaver. She does sort of speak a good Brexit. She does a good Brexit talk, and she's quite straightforward. But one of the things you've drawn attention to there is these slick videos. I mean, like we're children. Like we don't understand slick video PR.
It's for the younger demographic.
Right?
The younger demographic
except it isn't, though.
Who can't read. They just have to see a TikTok version.
She's trying to impress MPs in the House of Commons. There's no younger demographic.
But they should have. If they've got any sense, what they should do is like a 30-second video on TikTok.
Yeah, if they're going to do it, right?
I mean, that's another reason to get Boris involved in this, because he joined TikTok.
Oh, did he?
And there was, his first TikTok, he was like, I'm going to be on TikTok. It was like, mate, that's not going to work for anybody. Just forget about it.
But I just think that I'm all for professionalism, and talkTV is very professional, right? And so there's nothing wrong with good production values.
Yes.
But there's something about feeling manipulated by these people.
Well, because there's some oily PR bloke behind it, going, oh, yeah, put this in and put that in.
It really annoys me. And one of the things that you want is you want to believe that politics, and this is where Boris did have the advantage, even if it was a bit of a faux authenticity, is you want to feel like you're having a conversation with politicians, that you, as the voters, are not just kind of like being talked down to as, look how impressive I am.
Yeah, but time and time again, it's the same old story, like Penny Mordaunt, like any of these guys. They'll say something, they'll put it on Twitter, whereas it will remain there forever, or someone will have screenshot it and be able to repost it. And nobody actually takes accountability. None of these journalists will actually show any kind of integrity, which puts into big question all these current candidates who are saying, oh, we'll bring integrity back to politics. Really?
And especially when they were in the Boris Johnson cabinet, you're kind of going, all right, then. Well, you didn't say much, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
What are you saying now? Who's your second one?
Well, there's it's been a struggle, Mike, because I feel like I've been in a timber yard this week. There are so many planks.
Yes.
But my next candidate is the lovely Bernie Ecclestone.
Oh yes.
Who has done a double header. I think he's achieved a lot of success. Firstly, by being interviewed in a fairly candid video, professing his undying love for Putin.
Yeah.
And the fact that he would be willing to take a bullet for Putin.
Most bizarre thing I think I've ever heard.
Well, he'd probably need a crate to stand on to take that bullet. Otherwise, he might
very low-flying
whisk
bullet.
over.
Yeah.
Because he's not the tallest of chaps, is he?
He's not.
Fair enough. But then we got that fantastic news yesterday that he's being done for £400 million fraud, allegedly.
Did he forget to register it somewhere?
I think so, yeah. Or he forgot to do his corporation tax or
whatever.
Was that
400 million? Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot about that.
I know. So 400 million, the fact that I love, maybe, I don't know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, Mike, but maybe the professing of love to Putin and this subsequent £400 million fine maybe connected. Maybe he's looking for a friend to underwrite that debt.
Yeah, he also did he not say that being called fat or short was akin to being called the N-word?
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah, he also said that in the same interview. Or he said that, I think, to Piers Morgan. So, he's played an absolute blinder as old Bernie.
And then he's been tearing into old Lewis Hamilton. And, I was having this debate with someone the other day.
That was how it came up.
Yeah, so I was having this debate with someone about, yes, Lewis Hamilton has politicised his position. But this friend of mine did turn around and he said, to be fair, if he's got the position, why not utilise it? So I think Bernie, I don't know, he's...
I'd say up to a point, I'd say that's okay.
To a point.
When Lewis Hamilton started sympathising with the Just Stop Oil protesters who sat down...
Oh, did he? I didn't see that.
...in the middle of the British Grand Prix.
Forget Lewis.
And he said...
You know how much I love Stop Oil.
I think Lewis Hamilton is not... It could easily be one of these weeks nominated as Plank of the Week.
He's been on it a few times.
He's been on it a few times, I think, hasn't he?
Despite the fact that he's an absolutely brilliant racing driver.
Yeah.
It's just like,
he is.
It's just like, keep the driving, keep the politics out, shut up, because everything
just keep your mouth shut,
right?
Yeah.
Right, so I can understand, and Bernie Ecclestone's entitled to have a frank conversation with and does an interview and speaks a bit off. It's just that we're all bemused the fact that he said he'd take a bullet for Putin.
I know.
It's like...
That's brilliant.
Are you an idiot? I mean, even if you think it, shut up.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Really, at the moment,
well, this is a great advantage of freedom of speech, isn't it? Yeah. You can find out who the real idiots are.
Yeah, because it's actually fine that he thinks it. Nobody's trying to cancel him.
Right.
Nobody's trying to... But he is a plank,
Yeah.
right, for saying it on the one hand, but also... I would just like to point out that, you know, the bit that's rather more gory is Putin is doling out a fair few bullets, right? So it's like not a joke at the moment. This isn't like a time when it could have been, it's all good enough.
And also there's a fair few people who want to deliver a bullet to Putin. So, I mean, I don't know how resilient
I think it's
Bernie
always difficult making jokes about bullets and dictators. It's tricky.
Also, it's just
at the moment, I think.
We've heard some pretty grim stuff coming out of Ukraine in the last week or so. It was just totally ill-timed. So, we're not saying
and he also, let's not forget, he also described him as a first-class person. It wasn't even saying, look, I know he's got his problems, but it was, no, he's a first-class person.
No, it was a complete endorsement, 100% endorsement.
I've heard people I've honestly heard people who've met Putin and say, you know, he's really interesting and charming and all this sort of thing. And you think, well, that's fine. He just led a full-scale invasion of a sovereign country. He was smashing them to bits for no apparent reason. It's not like, you know, confining it to a disputed territory in the east or any of this. It was like, wham, bam, we're going to destroy Ukraine. And you do think, I don't care how charming he is. This is not really the point, right?
He's not really charming.
And I don't actually support Ukraine because I like Zelensky. You know, it's not the same.
It really is. I'm going to have to rush you along because we're running out of time. Gary Lineker, who's appeared on this show many times, he's on it again, I'm afraid. This time, for once again, his tweets. You know, he tweeted out when Boris Johnson...
What's Gary done this time,
Well, when all the resignations were going on, right, he took to Twitter and posted, open quotes, and breathe. But it's also, you might say, well, that's not really particularly controversial, but he knows exactly what he's doing, because he knows then that everyone's going to pile in on Boris Johnson and absolutely rip him to shreds. But he then, at the weekend, sort of made fun of Novak Djokovic, because, again, he knows which side his bread is buttered on. He knows, you know, who his fans are. And he basically congratulated Novak Djokovic for winning Wimbledon, saying, you know, he's finally won a court battle against an Australian. Which is just in sort of pretty poor taste, when Novak Djokovic is a magnificent athlete, far better athlete than Gary Lineker ever was, has won Wimbledon again in a period when he's been banned from Australia playing in the Open, banned from the US Open as well, because he refuses to be vaccinated or refuses to say what his status is, which he's totally entitled to do, you know, but he's kind of keeping it going. And also, I'm going to put him on it again, because still, despite all of the cutbacks that the BBC keep promising to make, despite the fact that he took a pay cut, he's still the highest paid person on the BBC, coming in at £1.35 million.
How do they justify that?
For Match of the Day, which doesn't even go out live.
What, for just Match of the Day?
Well, that's his salary. I mean, he might do other things, but he doesn't do much else, does he?
No.
Well, I think it's just the contrast as well. Gary Lineker, who, as you can note, could be on every... It doesn't matter what programme you're doing. If there's any other planks of the weeks on all sorts of programmes, he could be on plank of the week on everything all the time because of the tweets he puts out. He's nasty and he's bitter, and he's been so vicious against certain people. But it's the contrast with Djokovic. He's been so classy, right? So he was a classy winner at the weekend.
Very classy.
The way he handled
but it was such a cunning play on words, though, Clay.
I
mean, Stuart Lee, you know, hold his beer.
No, but I
Comedy's coming.
No, but I also thought the way he handled what happened in Australia and America's been great, because he said, you know, I thought he was treated abysmally by Australia in terms of being refused to pay because of his medical status, his decision about his own body not to take a vaccine, right? Not one I'd agree with, but that's what... Who cares? It's not my body, right? It's his body. But he didn't even whinge about it. He argued his position. He's been completely... and they keep saying to him, why have you given up on these big tournaments just for this? And he says, because I've got principles. Oh...
Thank God.
What a joy.
So rare.
So he's not only a brilliant tennis player, but he's a brilliant tennis player with principles. Instead, we've got Gary Lineker, I mean, you know, who it seems to me... He plays to the crowd.
He plays guitar.
No, he's going to guitar.
No, he plays to the crowd, exhibits a certain amount of double standards. I mean, you know, maybe we all are prone to doing that. But I just think he's so nasty about other people.
I don't think we've heard much about his illegal immigrant that he took in as well.
Not since...
Have we seen a photograph with him?
We never
the family?
did. No, we never did. I mean, he claimed that he did it. I mean, who knows if he did? But I'm just surprised.
He was a brilliant sports person in his day, right? Sportsman. I said sportsperson. Have we noticed? I've gone all woke.
I noticed that. You've gone all woke.
And it sounded weird.
Give us your third one. We're running out of time.
Right, my third one is the UK Health Security Agency.
Yes.
One of these major agencies, you thought, what is that?
Yeah.
And suddenly
it's the new
all
NHS
over,
England, isn't it?
Yeah, front page of the...
I've never even heard of them.
Front page of the Telegraph today, of newspapers today, UK Health Security Agency are very worried about the Sun. warm weather.
Why is it called the security agency and not the safety agency?
Because they've changed the name to make it sound like it's better than NHS England.
But it sounds pretty dodgy.
No, but you think about it.
I mean,
but security is like emergencies. These are national emergencies. It could require all sorts of state interventions. Crisis bound to be lurking in the small print. Anyway, they basically, instead of looking around and saying it's very hot and how wonderful people are having a summer, and I hope everyone's enjoying it, you can turn the heating off and not worry about the bills, and, you know, all that sort of thing, they're turning it into having top, you know, meetings, top-level meetings to discuss whether the government should intervene, whether this is going to turn into a public health crisis. Do we need to warn people every 5 minutes?
All stay indoors?
Just wait for the rain. It'll be fine. It'll be coming in a couple of days.
Yeah, we'll get snow in about 2 weeks.
No disrespect, but because it's actually a beautiful day out there, because it's actually clouded over and a bit breezy, which suits me perfectly.
Good.
But for all the weather forecasters said we're all going to die.
We're all going to die.
It's not
well,
true.
this Sunday, apparently, but I won't be here,
all right.
so that's...
What's your third one?
So my third one, Michael, is, you know, you mentioned the BBC.
Yes.
And obviously awarding Mr Lineker in a very, very generous remunerative level. Mine is to do with this documentary that is going to be broadcast
the SAS
Panorama about the SAS and about them conducting assassination missions in Afghanistan. And personally, I think it's a horrible idea, not the SAS doing what they're doing down there, but actually the Panorama documentary, for a number of reasons. We saw something very similar with the victimisation of British troops in Iraq, which then brought on all these horrible characters like Phil Spicer, I believe his name is, who chased down poor old Brian Wood, who got the Military Cross, and created a nightmare for his life, obviously, for a number of years. I think you're going to get all these, where there's a pain, there's a claim, lawyers coming out of the woodwork.
Ambulance chases.
And look, for God's sake, when you have a unit of specialist elite forces, like the Special Air Service or the SBS or the Special Reconnaissance Regiment, they are death dealers. They are down there not for hearts and minds. They are not down there to go and stroke people's hair.
No.
They are down there to end and terminate, with extreme prejudice, any problems that are down there. So I don't see any value coming out of this other than to besmirch our special forces, which are of the finest in the world, and secondly, to open up a can of worms, basically, for the various troops that are involved in it. The British Army, as a whole, are fantastic, but there's a part for every single piece to play in a theatre of operations. And Special Forces should be allowed to get on and do what they do best.
I mean, obviously, if they've done... And some of the cases they've looked at as well have already been investigated anyway, because they've got their own version of an investigation that happens. And what they do is all within the rules. And, you know, if you're a death squad, which is effectively what they are, that's what you're going to do.
Of course.
I don't find that extraordinary at all.
I think one of the things... two very quick things. I'm not opposed at all, you know, investigative journalism, and if they've got a story, that's fine. I really didn't like the tone this morning and last night on the BBC, which was almost like, we have discovered this amazing thing, and they were self-congratulatory. And also, you are innocent until proven guilty, so there's a real danger here.
But it is
Afghanistan.
But it is dangerous.
But the other thing is that we sometimes behave as though, you know, the SAS or Special Forces are presented in, you know, like cuddly. You know, what I mean is we have forgotten the nature of war. And one of the things that's happened with the Ukraine war is that people are actually seeing in Europe, at the heart of Europe, the brutality. They're not really seeing it, but the people of Ukraine are. But I'm saying, and it's a reminder of the fact that war is not some like pleasant little tea party.
No.
But if you actually look at even the way the PR is being done by the army about themselves, it's no wonder that then people get a shock and go, "Do you mean you kill people?"
Yeah, I know.
I mean, this like doesn't.
You know, we can't go any further with this, only because we're running out of time. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I've got to do my final one, which is ASLEF, which I've hardly got enough time to explain. They're doing more train strikes, basically. And last time around, they said, oh, it's not the drivers. Well, this time it is the drivers who are making loads of money, who are still going to try and bankrupt the country and stop people from going anywhere. So we're going to have to cut to the chase.
Up the workers.
She loves a strike. Give us your favourite one of your own, and then we'll choose between us which one will win finally, Plank.
Actually, I think it has to be Nish Kumar.
Nish Kumar, I think I'll go with that. What about you, Will?
I'm going to go with the BBC.
You're going to go with the BBC? Yeah, that's a good one as well. And I think I've got to go with Boris Johnson, haven't I? So it's Boris Johnson, Nish Kumar, BBC. It's got to be Boris, hasn't it? for Plank of the Week.
I think he probably does win. I mean, I hate to admit it, but I think.
I mean, I'm not saying that just to be self-congratulatory.
No, as long as everybody understands that we're not in the Boris bashing camp.
We're not.
The usual
No.
We're actually saying, Boris, why did you allow yourself to get bashed?
I know.
And therefore you're a plank.
Bashed himself, absolutely right. I'll give, since you've been so nice about that, we'll give you number 2 with NISH KUMAR, BBC.
Oh, I get number 3.
You get number 3. There's nothing wrong with that. So, it had to be this week, guys. Boris Johnson, Plank of the Week. He's no longer the Prime Minister. Well, he is, sort of, which also makes him a bit of a plank. Thank you to Claire. Thank you to Will. We'll see you next time.